Today is Sunday, November 12th, 2023. Victoria's not around, so I'll have to make do with just me today. Let's set our intention and make aspirations by saying the Four Immeasurables prayer. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings not be separated from the happiness that has never known suffering. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment, anger, and aversion. So we'll just, maybe we'll do a little bit of a review, brief one. I'm sure most of you have done this with us before. Those of you who haven't, this is a meditation class that also is a Buddhism, basic Buddhism discussion place. I'm not a teacher of Buddhism by any stretch of the imagination, but I've studied with some teachers and been fortunate enough to have received teachings from some many great teachers. And if any of this is of interest to you, I encourage you to seek out authentic teachers of authentic lineages of Buddhism, many of whom we put on the Solidago Productions website, which you use to log in. Seek them out. On their websites. On YouTube, there's a lot of teachings. There's opportunities to have in-person teachings and retreats, virtual teachings, archives on YouTube. Seek them out, make connections if you are so inspired. I'm going to read something. Let's see. Most of you, I'm assuming, are on Instagram. There's a lot of good Instagram pages that have teachings, and teachers that are here and teachers that have passed on. And there are ways of you to follow their activities and when their teachings are happening. Okay, let me see. Sorry. Okay, this is a good Instagram page. This is janchub.norbu. JANGCHUB.NORBU. In Tibetan, we say meditation is not merely just sitting down. It is not just meditation. This sounds like a wordplay, but it simply means that meditation is not just this. True meditation is to be accustomed or more closely aware of the truth, to be aware throughout one's entire experience. When we practice meditation, one can focus the mind on different objects, but this is not really the goal of meditation. The point is what develops out of this single-pointed concentration of the mind, which is the basis of awareness integrated into our own experience. So meditation is not only just a phase of sitting down and meditating. It is really about using awareness every day, every moment. Usually our awareness is disturbed and becomes uncontrolled due to distractions created by the 5 sense organs. But once awareness is there, distraction cannot be spoken of. True meditation is not merely sitting or concentrating on something special. That is just the method to develop the real practice of holding on to awareness. That quote is by Jamyon Control Rinpoche the third. Jamgon, capital Kongtrul, Rinpoche the third. Who was an incredible Lama. We've talked about this a bit, meditation being not just something we do like yoga, exercise, therapy, to kind of relax, get our mind in shape, be able to go through our day, like something I did my 10 minutes of meditation, now I can go through my day. That it's very different. And I think a lot of people have a conception of meditation like that. Well, if I do 10 minutes in the morning, my day is going to be better. Which may be true anyway. Not saying that it isn't. Not saying that doing 10 minutes or an hour of meditation in the morning, I'm not saying this is not going to affect your day, make it a little better, make you calmer, make you less stressed. Maybe. As Zonser Khyentse Rinpoche said, maybe even having a massage might do the same thing, Taking a warm bath can do the same thing. Jamyon Control is talking about something a little bit different, talking about cultivating awareness, mindful awareness, that is to be not just left on the cushion after your morning session of meditation or your evening session of meditation, but an awareness that's cultivated to bring into your day-to-day existence, moment-to-moment existence. Why? Why do we got to bring, what do we do with this awareness? Very good question. Maybe we could start to see a bigger picture. We can maybe crack that casing of self, grasping itself, filtering everything we experience and do and interact with through this conception of a separately existing self, which in terms of the view of Buddhism is a diluted concept, that the bigger picture is much more about interconnectedness, interdependence. So bringing awareness into day-to-day, moment-to-moment life, maybe something else happens. Maybe some velocity and speed of your living process, and the speed of your going through from point A to point B to point C to point D during the day. Maybe that speed, that velocity slows down and changes, and you become more open to others. Maybe become more open to goodness inside yourself. Maybe you become more open to other qualities like generosity, compassion, patience. So that's what we're doing in meditation, is we're familiarizing ourselves with that kind of mindful awareness. Well, what are we aware of? What we're aware of is not really the other person. We're aware of our own mind and what our own mind is doing. So instead of our own mind computing everything in terms of what's advantageous to us, what's most efficient for us to reach our goal, another experience may open up that involves being a benefit to others, that involves maybe generosity and compassion and patience. And if it's done with through cultivating your own awareness, it's not just a pose, it becomes something authentic. When you meet someone who's naturally kind, in a very, very genuine way. If you think about in your life the people you've met, it could be a grandparent or a parent or friend whose presence to you just really radiated a certain kindness and awareness. When you were in their presence, you felt them really taking you in with a kind heart, with an open heart. That's no small feat, you know. Many people naturally have that, or, you know, maybe they've cultivated over many lifetimes. So, you know, that's really what we're doing here. I hope that all makes sense. Let's sit. Let's meditate. So, I like to sit on a cushion, as do many people. I have two today. They're flat, but I don't know. This makes me comfortable. The cushion's good because it gets your hips either in line or above your knees, right? Which is good. You could sit cross-legged if you want to put one foot over the other leg. Sorry, that's not such a good. See, something like that. If you're very flexible and you want to do a full lotus thing, or if you can't sit on the floor, if it's really uncomfortable physically, you have some certain limitations, you can do this in a chair. But the same thing applies. The hips should be level or above the knees. Your feet should be flat. The legs should be pretty much at a right angle. And your back should be straight. You shouldn't be leaning back in the chair. Back straight doesn't mean like rigid like a soldier. It's straight but relaxed. You know that analogy of the guitar string. Too tight, it doesn't make a tone. Too loose, it doesn't make a tone. Just enough tension, and you get the proper tone, or you get a tone. Shoulders not far back, but just upright. The angle of the head, it's good if it's tilted just a little bit. And the gaze, usually you can do this where you kind of follow the bridge of the nose, the angle of the gaze. And you're looking, we practice with our eyes open in this class. And you rest your gaze on whatever's in front of you. You're not focusing really intensely. You're not spacing out, eyes crossed. Just resting. The jaw should be relaxed, teeth apart, but the lips closed, maybe, or just a little bit open. Tongue resting between the roof of the mouth and the top teeth where they meet. Hands should be relaxed. You can do this where you open your left hand and then the back of the right hand goes on top and rest it in your lap. You could put them down on your knees, like that. Some people do this, the ring finger and the thumb resting on the knees. Up to you. Okay. And breathe through the nose unless you can't, you know, if you're congested or something, you can breathe through your mouth. Normal breath, easy breath, not deep, not shallow, not rapid, not slow, normal, easy. If you need a big burst of oxygen, take a deep breath if you feel. Let's just relax into this pose and take a few breaths and do nothing else. The beginning technique we've used here, and if you're new, this might be the easier one for you, is to focus your attention where the breath moves in and out, where the upper lip and the nostrils meet. Just focus your attention there as you breathe. And you're going to start thinking, because that's what the mind does. And when you start thinking, you say to yourself, you have to notice your thinking. If you notice your thinking, then you say back to the breath and you put your attention back there. The key, the crux here, is noticing the fact that you're thinking, because most of our lives we are not noticing we're thinking. We're just thinking is normal and thinking is habitual, and we're just immersed in it. But here we're becoming aware that we're thinking, and then we're letting the thought go. We're not criticizing the thought, a bad thought, it's a good thought. We're not following the story of the thought, continuing the story of the thought. Like the thought is, okay, I'm having dinner at 5 o'clock, which means I have to start getting dressed at 4 o'clock. We're just noticing I have a dinner engagement at 5. Back to the breath. Those of you who've done this class, there's another technique that we use, which is we do this almost inner eye visualization of the mind being this very vast, limitless, stainless, clear, infinite blue sky, full of, that just is a representation of calm, spaciousness, peace, right? And when we're aware of the thought, the same thing applies. You have to be aware of the fact that you're thinking, right? A thought has arisen, you're aware of the thought, and we're kind of relaxing in this blue, limitless sky. The thought is like a cloud that has arisen. No matter what the thought is, doesn't matter what the quality of the thought is, bad, good, indifferent, mundane, profound, whatever. We're not even qualifying it, labeling it. Just noticing it, cloud has arisen in the sky. With the noticing of it and the leaving it where it is, we watch the cloud dissipate, which is a representation of thoughts which arise in the mind. They don't come from anywhere else, and they dissolve back into the mind. They don't go anywhere else, and they leave no trace in the mind. The thought may come back. You may have recurring thoughts. There may be things you're obsessing on, but once that thought is gone, it's gone. Like I said, it may come back, but it's not permanent, right? It leaves no permanent stain on the mind. That calm, that spaciousness is our baseline. That's ultimately our Buddha nature. Remember when we asked Garchen Rinpoche about doing this class and discussing anything regarding Buddhism, he said, just remember, keep the focus on the mind, because Buddha is not the name of a man. Buddha is the name of mind. If we all have mind, as our teacher Garchen Rinpoche said, that means we all are Buddha. So the more we access that calm, spacious, stainless Buddha mind, the more we access that, the more Buddha we are. And maybe at some point, some lifetime, maybe if some of you are advanced and lucky, maybe this lifetime, maybe in the future ones, we become all Buddha, leaving no trace of this compilation of self, qualities of self. So let's practice. I'm going to start our timer. If your body gets tense, you feel uncomfortable, you can shift, settle back in. When you settle, settle calmly. When you say back to the breath and focus your attention again on the nostrils and upper lip, or when you watch the cloud dissipate, settle back into that calm, sky-like nature of mind, that natural great peace. Familiarize yourself with it. Get familiar with that calm space. Habituate it. If you feel a little drowsy, you can raise the angle of your gaze a little bit. Or if you're feeling really agitated or something, you can lower the angle of your gaze. It's a little meditation hack. The trick, remember, is becoming aware of what you're thinking of, or the fact that you're thinking, and then apply the technique either back to the breath or the cloud dissolving back into the sky like nature and mind, or, and those of you who've been doing this a bit, mind being aware of mind. And when mind is aware of the thought that has arisen in the mind, that awareness alone brings us back to the mind and allows the thought to dissipate. Okay, I'm going to do an exercise. Stay in the pose, meditation posture. Breathe. And now let's just take a break, but be in this pose and be breathing, but let's just not meditate. And think about what that felt like. If you want to write in on the Q&A code what that felt like, you're welcome to. Now, get up and go wash your hands. If you can't wash your hands, just go look out the window, or don't check your phone, or walk to the other side of the room, stand there for 20 seconds, and then come back. One of those things. And when we do this, practice meditation, even though you're not in the pose, but the mind practice that we do, the awareness back to the breath or the cloud dissolving back into the sky, use that. Think about the qualities of that experience, what that was like. And you can write about what that is on the Q&A if you like. Here's as a dumb example of bringing that awareness into our life, right? You're going to go out to dinner to a restaurant and it's busy. And as you approach the door, someone else is approaching the door pretty much at the same rate, the same time as you. Obviously, if that other person gets there first, they're going to be seated before you in this busy place. So you could choose to pick up your pace, open the door and walk in front of them. I'm not saying what's right or wrong, because different circumstances, maybe you're late and you need to get there first or something. Maybe it's important that, you don't wait any longer. I don't know, because of other people, your friends or your family, and they're relying on you, or you're late or something. But there also is the opportunity to, because that person may be expecting the same thing, that you're going to get there faster, or maybe they should do it faster. Now you get to the door first. But instead of going in, you open the door and hold it for this person to go in before you. Which can do, could have a very interesting result, although we shouldn't focus on the result, but something else winds up happening than the normal default scenarios. That other person can become aware that you did something generous, and then that generosity may affect that person and change their headspace, and that generosity that now has changed that headspace changes the headspace of the person of the people this person interacts with. And that's kind of what I'm talking about when you bring awareness into situations, something else happens. You might have got there first and that person gets it. You did get there first, so you should get the table first. Or that person may feel, oh, that, they quickened their pace and, it was rude. So there are many ways a simple, small scenario like that can go. The accepted socially accepted decorum, you got there first, you get the table first. But sometimes other things can happen. And when other things happen, maybe it's interesting, you know? Okay, let's see if there's any questions. What is the best country to learn about Buddhism and do a Buddhist retreat? I'm assuming you're saying retreat. There are many. I'm assuming you're referring to the different traditions. You know, there's many traditions. I don't know a lot about uh, all the traditions. You know, I've only been really exposed and studied in Tibetan Buddhist tradition, which is very good. But I'm sure that you know they're all wonderful. It's really about what you connect to. You know, so you have to do some investigation, like I said. You know, go on if you want to start here, go on to Solidago Productions website and see our list, or then you just start Googling or going to a bookstore and seeing what interests you, you know, and follow. You have to follow your own path. I can't say what the best is. We last time you were talking about an audiobook. I did an audiobook. It's not out yet. It'll be out soon. The book is out and it's very good. It's called Living is Dying and it's by Zontar Khyentse Rinpoche, who is on the list at Solidago Productions, and it's a book about dying, really, which is something all of us are going to do. And the fact that we're all going to die is something, you know, there's so many fears and hang-ups and things about death. And normally it's you know, we avoid thinking about it or talking about it, but since it's something very inevitable and something very important, I think it's good that we start to think about it. This book is fantastic. Living is Dying. I recommend it highly. How cognizant is Buddhist meditation of the passing of time? Let's say, how cognizant is Buddhism of the passing of time? First, passing of time, impermanence, right? So that's something very important that we have to remember. That our time in this vessel is impermanent. Can a ticking clock act similarly to the breath? Similarly, as something to return attention to. I wouldn't use a ticking clock. You know, I don't know. You know, I think that's a distraction. If there is a ticking clock in the room, well, that's another thing. And if it distracts you, you use it like we use becoming aware of the thought. Become aware of the distraction, go back to the breath. You know, the distraction arises like a cloud, you watch it dissolve. What exercise to relax? Well, you know, I mean, if you started the class from the beginning, you know, that quote I read was about that, you know, meditation's not something, it's essentially for relaxation. You know, I mean, a hot bath is good for relaxing. I feel anxious and agitated when I was sitting and breathing, but not meditating. Interesting. That's that little exercise we did right at the end. But I'm assuming you didn't feel anxious or agitated when you were meditating, which is probably a good sign. You know, that means that you were having some working with the thoughts. The anxiety and agitation, you know, is, you know, the mental activity. I mean, it can become physical too, but it's coming from some kind of thought process, the mind somewhere. When I sit still without meditating or focus on the breath, it feels like I get lost in thought, disconnected from my body. Even when not meditating, the awareness is still there. So some, you know, maybe if you've been doing this a while, you know, that just being kind of in this pose meditation posture starts to bring you into awareness. Because we're training, you know, which is good. Um, so you're training for your mind to get used to being aware of itself. So then what happens is basically your whole life becomes opportunities for practice. Practice, we don't just mean sitting on the cushion for an hour, 10 minutes, or 20 minutes. Practice, we means bringing mindfulness and awareness into life at every opportunity, minute to minute, moment to moment. Not meditating was restlessness. Well, some people are saying kind of restlessness and agitation. Some people, we're talking about that exercise right after when we still were sitting in the pose but not meditating. And some people said awareness came anyway. Okay, here's a comment about getting up. Washing my hands while meditating made it a calming moment because I was present. I was able to appreciate the warmth of the water, the pleasant scent of the soap, and the feeling of my hands washing each other. That's cool. You know, you can also take it a step further and think of all the other beings involved in that little process of washing your hands. The water, which has reached your hands through the sink because some plumber installed your system, right, of pipes. And there's people, if you're getting your water from a reservoir, that run this reservoir, that have built some system to purify the water. You're using soap, which was made in some factory that someone, you know, that there's people who, you know, are running the operation of making the soap and putting it in boxes and then shipping it. And somebody drove a truck across the country to get it into your store, and someone stacked it on the shelf. In this little act of washing our hands, you know, there's this vast network of people involved, interdependence, right? I felt a calm sense of mind, inner peace. Meditating, washing hands, calmness, did not feel rushed trying to finish washing hands. Someone looked out the window and said the leaves were still except for one small branch fluttering. It brought me back to the feeling of spacious mind. Quiet mind, open door. How did you discover Tibetan Buddhism? Well, I was open towards spiritual teachings, and I saw a flyer in a bookstore that sold books about spirituality. What can I wear on my body to always remember about Buddha? Buddha, I'm assuming Buddha mind. What can you wear? I don't know. I mean, it could be something you get from a teacher. It could be something you get from a Buddhist website or something. It could be you could mala. You see what works. Yeah, to be honest, you know, mala is a prayer bead. So certain practices in Tibetan Buddhism, at least, there's accumulations of prayers and mantras. So you use these as counters. You know, there's 108 really on this. You know, and then you can attach things that count hundreds and thousands and 10,000s. You know, they're little, like little abacus looking things. But also sometimes just having it in the hand can bring you into awareness of your practice when you're walking or something. Is it possible to focus on peace and send good vibes to Middle East during meditation, or would that become a prayer instead? Well, it's possible. Of course, it's possible. Sure. That's a different practice, right? A different practice than just becoming aware of the mind, cultivating mindful awareness. That's basically, is it becoming a prayer? Yeah, it's making aspirations, sending, um, it's certainly valuable, if that's what you're inspired to do. Books, people ask for books. Go on the Solidago Productions website. We have a book recommendation section there. To be honest, when you said take a break, don't meditate, it felt very much the same. And I found that the technique had carried over because it felt purposeful. When I stood up and went to wash my hands and walk around the room, I felt that I noticed a lot more little details and was more intentional. Again, as if there was a form of carryover. It felt very interesting. What are your thoughts on TM? I really have no thoughts on TM, Transcendental Meditation. I know nothing about it. I know some people like it. Uh, you know, I really don't. Again, meditation itself for me is an aspect of my Buddhist practice. It's not something that I do separate from that, independently of that. Uh, as an alternative to that, it is very much part of practice of Tibetan Buddhism in my teacher's lineage, which is Drikten Kagyu lineage. Um, so, uh, you know, what works for you works for you. How can I incorporate meditation and breathing techniques during my daily life out and about New York, which can be stressful? We're not really doing breathing techniques here. Maybe we are when we say back to the breath. We're doing not a deep breath, not a shallow breath. The breath is a support for the mind, really, meditation practice. I mean, kind of like what we just did, that exercise, getting up, but maintaining the meditation practice. And that's why I did that practice, while we just did that as an example, is in that this person commented and said, when I stood up and went to wash my hands and walk around the room, I noticed a lot more and was more intentional. It was a carryover from the meditation. So I think that's really what you can do. The key is to start bringing awareness into your daily life that you can have some mindfulness. If you have mindfulness, if you remember the fact that you have a meditation practice, that you could bring that into your daily life and practice in the midst of everything. The key is, remembering that you have to do that, because we can get so caught up in the stressors of our life, and that happens by really delving into the practice, and not just meditation. If you start to really, watch teachings, attend teachings, read texts, this can really help. If you start to have devotion for the teachings, by devotion I don't mean blind devotion, obsequiousness, or some kind of worship. No, Buddha was a man. Buddha is not worshipped like a god. We don't really pray to Buddha to kind of help us. Buddha is was a man who attained what we consider the highest potentiality of being a human being, which is enlightenment. Buddha also said we all have the potential for that. So when I say devotion to the teachings, to the teachers, the devotion comes out of knowing that knowing your potentiality as Buddha. So the more you cultivate these things, the more you delve into the teachings, and the more devotion that rises in your heart, the more you're going to be able to have awareness in the daily life, pretty much, from how I understand it. Is it better to meditate for one longer session each day, or would you recommend several shorter sessions? In the beginning, short sessions. How do we reconcile the nature of karma with war and the lives of innocent people and children being taken from them? I don't think we ever reconcile the nature of karma. The karma is just, cause and effect, right? And being born into a place where there's war is not something we did intentionally, obviously. It is what happened. Karma is not some magical cosmic retribution, punishment reward system. It's causes and conditions. You were born I was born in New York because my parents were living here, and it was my karma to be born to these parents, right? Um, I'm not saying bad or good, you know. I don't know if we do reconcile the nature of karma with war. Some people have, it's their karma to be born in this country, and one person's karma is to be born here. If it was my karma to be born in China, I would have been born in China, you know. Somehow my karma had me be born here. Remember, every action of body, speech, and mind creates karma. So that's really what you have to focus on. If you're going to reconcile anything, reconcile with yourself in the moment. Now, your actions of body, speech, and mind are really the only things you have any control over. You really have no control over what's going on in the war unless you're involved in that somehow directly. You're a general or a president or something, or living through it. But yes, you can make a difference. You could protest it. You could send money to help the people. You could, vote. Whatever that is. That's your how you have influence over your own karma. Your actions of body, speech, and mind contribute to your karma unfolding in your life. Does that make sense? I tend to keep getting stiff. I stiffen up parts of my body while meditating, which challenges me, just like when thoughts arise. I think, can I recommend anything to help me stay mindful of stiffening up? Do I need to just practice more? Yeah, the more you practice, your body's got to start getting used to this position if you're new, you know. It's like when you start working out, if you haven't worked out for years or something, you're whatever it is you do, those muscles are going to be sore because they're not used to it. But the more you do it, the more your muscles are going to get used to. Say you're running, your muscles might get sore and stiff and cramp up and very quickly in 10 minutes. But the more you do it, the more your muscles get used to it. It's the same thing. You'll get more used to it. If you feel you're stiffing up, just loosen up, rotate your shoulders or your hips or something and settle back down. Be patient with yourself. It's new. When you start to play guitar, uh, it really hurts, especially steel strings. It really hurts your fingers. Very painful till you build up calluses. That only comes from doing it. Then it becomes not so painful. And you can use the stiffening up as a thought that has arisen in the sky-like nature of mind as a cloud, and watching it dissolve. And if it comes back again, apply the same technique. When I am in the pose and told not to meditate, I automatically meditated. I've been regularly meditating for over 2 years, though. Yeah, that's interesting. During the exercise at the end, without meditating, I experienced an amplified awareness. Any remaining piece of the elephant in the room was recognized and released. Good. Hopefully the elephant isn't too hungry. How often do you recommend practice meditation? Does it matter the age? Doesn't matter the age. I think if you're a beginner, it's good to start, try to do it, incorporate it into your daily routine. Mornings are good, or before you go to bed. Often it's good to do it in the same place, so your mind and body starts knowing that place is for the meditation. But every day, start with short sessions, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever. Thich Nhat Hanh was a wonderful Buddhist teacher who passed away recently, from Vietnam. Has many great books. So one said that he was always meditating every moment. Is this what we aspire to in learning meditation? Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I think what he's saying is he was all, he was in awareness all the time. I don't want to speak for him, but that's kind of my assumption. I went to wash my hands and my phone was sitting near the sink. I automatically wanted to check it, but then I treated it like a thought and made it dissolve like a cloud. Incredible how powerful our phones are. Yes. Habituation, of course. It's habit. That's all it is. I had trouble meditating today, a billion thoughts and unpleasant emotions. So when I stopped trying, I actually felt more relaxed and present. How important is finding a teacher? In my opinion, there's nothing more important. I read somewhere that Buddhism is like a science. I really connected with that idea. Can you speak further about it? That's a very good question. Because there's nothing, I mean, there's nothing, there's no religiosity about anything we've really discussed today, if you think about it. What are we talking about? Mind and body? Consciousness, awareness? Those aren't religious, not even necessarily spiritual things. When you think about the mind, you can think about psychiatry, psychology. Those are sciences, right? So to me, it's a science of mind more than anything. Where does the religiosity come in? Well, of course, there has to be some ethical discipline if you're going to cultivate some kind of or engage in some spiritual path. You can't be, someone who's just causing harm to every person they come in contact with, and especially and expect some kind of spiritual growth. But logic tells you that, right? The Buddhist teaching can really be distilled into 3 very simple terms. One is do no harm. What does that mean? Don't take something that doesn't belong to you. Don't willfully, don't kill, or don't, hurt someone. If they're not hurting you or whatever, or they're not hurting someone, don't cause pain, don't cause suffering to other people, right? Do no harm. Do good, cultivate virtue like patience and generosity and compassion, kindness. And 3, tame the mind, which we're doing, right? Which is the practice of meditation and awareness, because, taming the mind allows you to really be better at doing no harm, be better at doing good, and taming the mind can really allow you to experience the view of Buddhism and start to see that the self, uh, as we know it, is a mental construction, for the most part, that we give a great deal of power to. And that view of the self, I mean, that mental construction is the source of a lot of suffering. Do you think it's possible to live in New York City long term and still cultivate mindful, calm presence? Sure. Yes. Why not? When I try to quiet my mind and be more aware, I have a feeling of helplessness and hopelessness with the climate of the world. I'm not sure if you mean during the formal meditation practice or when you're just sitting when we did the exercise of not meditating, but yeah, sure, especially now, right? So if you're sitting in formal meditation practice and you get that sense of hopelessness of the world, you have to work with it as a thought that has arisen like a cloud in the sky, like nature of mind, and watch it dissolve or go back to the breath. Become aware that you're thinking about hopelessness and go back to the breath. And then in life, to take actions against the hopelessness and helplessness and try to, use your life here uh, to be an antidote to that, I guess. Because we're not hopeless, or we're not helpless. There's things we can do. What does Buddhism teach about the afterlife? Um, so Buddhism, our mind, consciousness, has not been created and will not be destroyed. Um, consciousness is not the same thing as a soul. As a soul, in other religions, has a connotation of a self. The soul is unique to this self. Consciousness is like sky-like nature of mind, if you think about that, like space almost. And consciousness kind of attaches to this physical form, imbues itself into this physical form. So when the physical form dies, the consciousness goes on and goes into this in-between state called the bardo until it takes root, takes form in another life form. And the qualities of that next life form is in direct relation to the karma you created through your actions of body, speech, and mind in this life and in prior lives. If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. 9th century Buddhist sage Lin Chin. I never understood what that means. I'll be honest with you. I don't know who Lin Chin was. I don't know, I'm not really sure what that means, I never quite understood that. It's not something the Buddha said. It's not anything I've ever heard any of my teachers say. So I can't even speak to that. Last night, I had been struck by the anxiety of death for the first time in a while. Do you have any guidance on how to cope with such a feeling? I recommend that book, Living is Dying by Zantsur Khyentse Rinpoche, which you can find on the website, Solidago Productions. I think the thing is to learn about death. I think learning about it and accepting the inevitability of it, and realizing that we have some, like we were saying, some kind of control or influence over what the next life is going to be. I recommend that book. I won't even go into, how to cope with it. I mean, go read that. Go to the source, the teacher. They'll help you. How do you find a teacher? How do you find a teacher? We recommend some on the website right here. You have to do some digging, you have to do some investigation. I mean, now we have the internet. You can go online and watch teachings, from different teachers. Go to a bookstore, go to the Buddhist section of a bookstore and see what appeals to you. Oh, I always thought the Buddha on the road kill him. I thought it meant what you were saying before. Buddhism is not about worshiping a man. Yeah, maybe. When you meet the Buddha on the road, the primary takeaway from that is that everyone has their own path. If someone says, "Follow me," don't. Okay, but that's not what the quote is. If you meet the Buddha on the road, I mean, if you're on the road and there's a great teacher there, why would you kill him? That makes no sense. I don't know. I never quite got that quote. It's not something that I don't get it, but I'm sure somebody gets it. Thank you very much. We close this class every week the same way by dedicating the merit. When you coming together, working on meditation, is a positive action, body, speech, and mind. And we dedicate that positive activity towards the benefit of all beings. And we say this dedication prayer. By this merit, may all beings attain the state of enlightenment and conquer the enemies of faults and delusions. May they be liberated from this ocean of samsara and its pounding waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. And we say that as like we engage in these positive activity, body, speech, and mind in this class together, make this, effort to be here together. It's good for us. But when we dedicate it for the benefit of all beings, it's like we're taking that goodness for us and putting it into this universal bank of goodness. Like they say, a drop in the ocean becomes the ocean. See you next week.